No, I think he's still keeping that.
Being that it is now 6 p.m. on Monday, September 11th, 2017, I'll call to order the Board of Selectmen's meeting. If we could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our first item on the agenda is a proclamation for recognition of Adult Day Services Week, celebrating diversity in Adult Day Services. And I'll read the proclamation, which is going to be accepted by Joseph Rizzo, who is the Executive Director and owner of Accord Adult Day Center here in Webster. The proclamation reads, declaring September 17, 2017 through September 23rd, 2017, Adult Day Services Week, celebrating diversity in adult day services. Whereas the town of Webster takes great pride in its diverse community and the inclusion of all citizens, and whereas the availability and accessibility of adult day programs provides families and caretakers the ability to give their homebound or functionally limited loved ones the opportunity to make friends, socialize, and acquire new skills, and whereas such programs lead to a decrease in stress commonly experienced by caregivers, while also providing educational and entertaining programs for loved ones who they care for. And whereas there are dedicated local programs such as Accord Adult Day Center, who offer an array of supported services designed to prevent or postpone placing frail, homebound, elderly, or functionally limited adults in long-term care facilities. And whereas employees and volunteers at such programs provide much-needed services in order to enhance the lives of their participants. And whereas former President Ronald Reagan acknowledged the importance of such programs to our country in his proclamation declared on September 27, 1983, and whereas this special week has been celebrated annually ever since. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Town of Webster Board of Selectmen, do join with the citizens and employees of the Town of Webster to hereby thank all adult day programs and call upon our community to consider the value of adult day service centers and to give appropriate recognition to centers offering these important services throughout the week of September 17, 2017 through September 23rd, 2017, recognized as Adult Day Services Week, celebrating diversity in adult day services. And this is signed by the entire Board of Selectmen.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely, thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Next item on the agenda is a request from Carol Marchand to have the Board of Selectmen sponsor a holiday bazaar. Carol, if you'd like to come forward.
While Carol's coming up, I'll just take a few seconds to recognize Carol's hard work with the summer market that happened on Wednesday nights. If you didn't get a chance to go there, it was a great time, and Carol was able to get vendors out there and make it a community event, and we enjoyed the tomatoes. Well, I didn't enjoy the tomatoes, but the residents that bought fresh tomatoes certainly enjoyed them.
They were good tomatoes, they were. All right, thank you very much, and thank you for squeezing me onto the agenda. I appreciate it. Missing a month would have hurt things getting ready. In order to use school space for free, I need a committee to sponsor a holiday bazaar. And I thought the perfect sponsors would be the selectmen, because my next question is going to be, I'm going to ask you to all participate. Because I know we've got a Santa. We're going to need somebody to run the bake sale table and the raffle tickets, and he's Santa.
You can do the dunk tank.
So we're looking to do it on the second week of December, the second Saturday, not necessarily in conjunction, but the same day as Winter Wonderland. If it's nice enough, toying with the idea of having a parade from Park Ave down to the lake for the start of Winter Wonderland, and have that all go as planned. So if I can get your support on that, I can get the Park Ave Elementary cafeteria for free.
Mr. Chairman, I would make that in the form of a motion that the Board of Selectmen support.
And just so you know, the money that we make at the bake sale, and I did talk to Doug, there'll be a separate Christmas fund to go into future Christmas events, maybe a Christmas social next year, maybe a Christmas parade. It's, try to get some more things going.
So we have a motion and a second, and just for discussion purposes, the date that's being recommended is December 9th
Yeah.
from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Yeah.
So is there any other discussion? If not, Jen, will you?
Well, yeah,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I
Absolutely.
would volunteer Mr. Bork, Selectman Bork, to be in the dunk tank and take care of it.
Sorry, I have the Santa suit. And, I paid a lot of money for the Santa suit, and unfortunately, I can fit in the Santa suit, so.
You're gonna need an elf.
Yes.
Andrew,
I'll be happy to help out any way I can.
Sounds like a great idea.
Great. Thank you,
I
thank you.
will draw my,
So Jen, if you would hold the board, please.
Selectman Dubkevich?
Yes.
Selectman Bork?
yes.
Selectman Miller?
yes.
Chairman Jolden?
Yes,
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
thank you. We received in our packet a letter from Elaine Gould looking to be appointed to the Council on Aging.
Elaine not here.
Yes, Jen?
Oh, she couldn't be here.
Okay.
Good, thanks.
Is there anybody on the board who's,
Well, usually we like to have them come in front.
all right, so we can wait until she can be present to move forward with the appointment?
You cannot, they wanted her to be appointed so that she could start.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, motion and second. Any other discussion? If not, Jen, will you pull the board?
Selectman
Yeah.
Dubkevich?
Yes.
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Jolden?
Yes. And you'll notify Elaine of the appointment and ask her to reach out to the town clerk to get sworn. Thank you. Right, the next item on the agenda is a letter of interest for a selectman's appointment to the Finance Committee from Ms. Laura Backus.
She's not here either.
Laura's not here.
I did reach out to her to contact her, but didn't receive a response back.
Okay.
All right. And the Finance Committee has been notified of her intent, and she hasn't been able to attend one of your meetings yet, so you haven't met her, is that right? Yeah, so, it's up to the board. We can hold off on that appointment until,
Well, we just broke our own rules, so.
so.
Well, I think the committee knew the other lady.
Yeah,
Do you
so-
know this lady?
I've never met her, I've only seen her letter of interest
And we've seen her at events. in the
Yeah.
past, too.
Really? I'm not sure who she is.
I make a motion to table this?
Yeah, until she arrives?
Yeah.
Yeah, then we can take it back.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. No problem. Moving on, the next item on the agenda is discussion with Jason Piotr from the Webster Lake Association concerning potential closure of lake access points. So, Jason?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and other members of the board. I have to apologize. The item is a little tad bit misleading for the reason why I am here. Here to discuss the possible donation of a gate for Sucker Brook. But before I get into that, I'd like to just take a brief moment and highlight for the board the Lake Association's contributions to the town over the past year. First, the Lake Association was able to donate over $2,800 to both the Webster Fire Department and the Reconciliation House through the Einstein Ice Out contest. It was a huge success this year. There was a very nice article written in the Webster Times about that donation. Second, we conducted 3 cruises for Webster Lake Association residents and school children through the National Night Out. I'd like to thank the 2 members of the board that were able to donate boats and their time. The Book a Cruise, which we were able to serve over 300 Webster school children through the library's Book a Cruise program. And the Senior Cruise, we were able to donate lunch and a boat ride to over 100 Webster seniors through the by working with the Senior Center. And lastly, and most importantly, Sucker Brook. We were able to finish the Sucker Brook project this year. We spent roughly $125,000 over the 2-year project between hydro raking and herbicide treatment. We were able to open up the mouth of the brook that borders North Pond and create a 20-foot wide access way that extends all the way towards the Gore Road overpass. What I am here to seek your approval on is to enter into discussions with the Highway Department to install a gate at the road that enters onto the town's property there. One thing that was found when we entered Sucker Brook and began to remove debris that was excavated from the brook was there was a significant amount of trash from dumping activities that was left there. It took actually 4 days to remove all of this trash. And having raw waste near the lake, luckily none of it was visibly in the lake, creates quite a concern. And the Lake Association would like to donate to the town a gate for that access road.
Yeah, so I talked with Kenny, and he's very excited about the idea to have a gate donated so to keep people out from dumping illegally over there. So we're excited. We appreciate the Webster Lake Association's generosity. Thank you.
Right. That's all I have, is just to seek your approval to do that.
Okay, so it's looking to block off a road that's currently owned by the town that's on town property.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
Right. We would provide the gate. We would expect the Highway Department to actually install the gate. But since they think they have sufficient the ability to install it, I don't see why that would be a big issue.
Do we have a motion from the board?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion, do we have a
Second.
motion and second? Any discussion? If not, hearing none, Jen, will you pull the board?
Selectman Dolgevich?
Yes.
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Alright. I think we're almost on time for 6:15 for your posting. Wait another minute and then we'll allow the Charter Review Committee call their meeting to order. for
Bob
their
just walked
presentation.
out, so. We have a minute. Way to go, Ron.
Sorry, it's my wife. It's my wife, sorry. She should know better. I didn't interrupt her at her meeting.
right, our next item on the agenda is presentation by Earl Gabor, Chairman of the Charter Review Committee, and committee members in preparation for the special town meeting on October 30th, proposed charter changes highlighted and executive summary. So,
Chairman, board members, evening. I'd just like to open the CRC Charter Review Committee meeting. We have a quorum, so I'll call it to order.
You can take it, actually.
So it's, I hope you have a couple hours, 13 slides. But no, I'm going to be brief and just go over the highlights. But I'd just like to acknowledge the committee. We formed in April of 2016, and the members, myself as chairman, and Andrew Jolder as vice chairman, and Ted Avlis as secretary, with Pamela Regis, Leanne Majersic, Bob Craver, Tom Ralph, and Doug Willitson. We started in April, and we've been diligently working on reviewing the charter. As you know, that the charter is pretty in need of changes and revision. There's still remnants when we had a representative form of government, so we did a lot of cleanup. We engaged, we sent memos out to all department heads and committees and boards asking for their input early on in the process. And we've worked through it, engaged legal counsel from KP, and specifically Lauren Goldberg, and have been refining it and preparing this presentation to you, and later this month, public hearing on September 18th, and hopefully put this on the warrant for a special town meeting on October 30th. So I'll just, what I'm intending on doing is just going over the highlights, and that's just the introduction. We wanted to focus on, cleaning up the charter, going over the sections that need revision, and incorporating best practices where we saw opportunities to advance and put Webster on par with other communities, and Lauren Goldberg helped along those lines by providing us examples. And the other thing we tried to do was remove a lot of the parts of the charter that are subject to change and try to move them into a bylaw so it doesn't remain so binding if it remains in the charter. So we tried to shift a lot of those things, and we'll have to be working with the bylaw committee as we move forward, assuming that this advances through the ballot in May of 2018. And what we did, I'll just jump ahead here. What we did was broken the changes out into 4 categories and color-coded them. I believe you have a presentation in your packet, but breaking them down into what was grammar and punctuation, what we perceived as minor changes, moderate and substantive changes. So I'll just highlight what we proposed as substantive changes was changing the elected to appointed town collector, town treasurer, chief assessor, changing those 3 positions to appointed. I think we've seen the DOR recommendations from early in the century, 2000s, that recommended that they change from elected to appointed. And just basically because the job has gotten more intricate in every case, and the rules and regulations are changing. It gives you a broader spectrum of qualified people. We also felt that it's key, if this does move forward and change to appointed, that there are good job descriptions backing those appointments up. So we're hoping that, that evolves. If there's any questions along the way, just stop me. The next was the Water and Sewer Commission. I know there was a Water and Sewer Commission in the old charter that was really never implemented, to my knowledge. We're recommending that strongly again, with a little twist. We think the powers should change a little bit. The committee composition should change a bit. And we think some of the duties need to be maybe lifted from your back onto this committee, and specifically setting water sewer rates with your approval, and doing the legwork to investigate and explore that with the superintendents. They would be part of the committee, non-voting members of that committee if it evolves, that commission. The third substantive change was changing the finance committee from 15 to 9 members. We think 15 is just too large, and we've never reached that number of members ever, and it doesn't seem feasible to try to strive to reach that. As we all know, it's tough to get people on committees. We still wanted to keep the breakdown of the 3 elected by the Board of Selectmen, 3 appointed by the moderator, and 3 elected. Next was the Board of Health to change from 3 to 5 elected members. We think it's important. We think there's a lot going on. We think there's a lot on their plate. And I think with the new laws in Massachusetts, that's not going to change in the near future. We think it keeps them moving forward in the decision process. It's hard to have a quorum sometimes for them. It's hard for them to come to decisions sometimes. Two members can't speak outside the committee because that's a quorum. We think there's a lot of good reasons to change it to 5 members. And I'll talk about this a little bit later. We've had some recommendations. One of the big things that we want to try to do is get buy-in from the community, because as we go to special town meeting in October, it's going to require a 2/3 majority to move it to ballot. So we're looking for it's key for a buy-in to put it to vote. And we've talked with the people in these positions that are in the substantive changes, and we have their support. And there's some, they did have some recommendations, which I just received the legal verbiage back from the lawyer on Friday, but I'll briefly talk about how we're going to accomplish this. So this moves on. This is what we did. On the left is the current charter. In the middle column is the changes. And on the right column is the proposed charter, which we're going to put forward. So as you can see, they're minor, and I'm not going to spend time on that. There's really nothing in Article 1 that needs to be discussed. I jumped way page enough instead. So on to Article 2, the legislative branch. Again, it's small changes. Again, recommended by the lawyer. The presiding officer, we've made one change. The appointment of a deputy moderator shall be subject of ratification. We feel that that's just a motion that can be removed, where the moderator will designate the deputy. Time of annual town meeting, yes, nothing major. It's all minor changes. Special town meeting, no change. Town meeting warrants. We did make some changes here, and it's mainly just process. It's nothing. I'm trying to, replace any multiple body with any elected or appointed multiple member body. Just some verbiage And again, we left the 10. And on the special town for the special town meeting, we did change the 200 voters required to 100 voters. We felt that that's a realistic number for this community. And we did make some changes in the warrant, mainly because of the verbiage. Again, that was old verbiage on the left. And we're trying to get away from publishing big things in the newspaper. We're trying to keep it brief in the newspaper and have it available online and in the town hall when necessary. Again, there were minor changes there. 2.8, again, we all know the quorum is 61 voters, but we voted to move that to the bylaw and out of the charter so that if it needs to change, it'll be a lot easier to change it. There's a section in the old charter, section 2.9, referendum procedures, that's a remnant of the representative form of government. We've deleted that from the proposed charter. On to 3.1, Article 3, elected officials. And that's where we changed the appointments of the assessor, town treasurer, and town collector from elected to appointed. And we changed a little bit regarding holding multiple offices. It's just the verbiage, pretty much. But it says no town official shall simultaneously hold any other elected town office. No person's name shall be printed on the ballot as a candidate for more than one town office or any town election.
So, Earl, I don't want to, sorry to interrupt, but this is kind of one of the biggest changes, and does the board have any strong feelings one way or the other about making these appointed versus elected? Right.
And just to say, we do have the buy-in, and I'll talk about it a little bit when we get to that section, the transition section. The incumbents in those positions are buying into this with the changes that we've recently proposed. So I'll go over that when we get to it. The recall petition, the biggest thing, we've changed a recall petition from any 25 voters to any 50 voters. We figured it fair if it takes 50 voters to get you on the ballot, it should take at least 50 voters to put a petition in. There's nothing there, just... We did change a little bit on the recall. we put some verbiage in to make sure the process doesn't just go on without resolution. As you can see, here, I'm trying to, it's 2 months after the election. It just spells it out a little more clearly. Again, this is the appointments where it's added to your list of appointments for treasurer and the chief assessor and the town collector. And it's also going to be the water sewer commission that I talked about. This, we didn't have the most current version here, but 11 has been added on the right that you'll be making the appointments for the water sewer commission. School committee, it was decided to abbreviate the powers and duties, and it was recommended again by legal counsel to limit the description and move it to the bylaws so that that can flex as needed, as opposed to being in the charter. So there'll be corresponding work done on the bylaws. And the appointment of an assessor also, in looking at the makeup, was we were recommending deletion of the Board of Assessors. Really, it's as presented, it seems like sort of a committee that just takes the lead from the chief assessor, and it's passed.
Yeah, and that's actually, I spoke directly with the Department of Revenue on that one because, you know, it seemed a little weird to give power to one person to be able to give or not give abatements. And they said that's pretty standard to just have the assessor be able to do that, and they were totally fine with that.
Okay, and this is just as just minor. We removed the section for the assessor, so we had to renumber. 3.6 town clerk becomes 3.5 town clerk, things like that. So I'm just gonna, pass over that. And again, those are removed from here and will be found. Their powers and duties and terms and all of that will be found in the bylaws as you make these appointed positions. And the Finance Committee pretty much changed the composition from 15 to 9. Nothing significant. The one that was jumbled up there.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, we can go through each article, but it might be more helpful to if the board, we just discuss those are the most substantial
Right.
changes.
Correct, I was gonna ask if there was any other more substantial changes, and if
Okay,
you could focus
okay.
on those.
Substantive.
Let me, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to say that word.
Okay, section 4.4. One of the things we worked on was to try to simplify, you know, we currently had the interim town administrator, the acting town administrator, we had all that in place. And we have a provision earlier on where in Doug's absence, there is somebody that he appoints that is still under his power and regulation. But short of that, there would be an acting town administrator. And I think we've all been through the pain of appointing a new town administrator and knowing that over time, it doesn't do the town any good to try to make up on the short term. So we've eliminated the interim and just had an acting town administrator. It'll be filled as soon as possible by the Board of Selectmen. The board shall appoint a town administrator meeting the qualifications listed in the town bylaws. Such temporary appointment shall not exceed 6-month term. But an additional renewal or renewals may be voted on every 30 days thereafter for a total temporary appointment of not more than 1 year. The process for appointing, the process for interviewing for a new TA is 180 days, and we know that that process takes every bit of that time to do. So we figured that, and we know that as we get beyond a year in time, things doesn't work as well. So it's key to appoint a town administrator in a timely fashion if that situation arises.
One thing we did discuss was having the acting be able to become the appointed town administrator. There's discussion on whether we should or should not. We felt that it's better to have whoever is acting be able to become the town administrator, because you don't want to, if you have someone great lined up, you don't want to say, oh, you can't be acting because we want you to be the real town administrator later on. So I think it makes sense that the person who is acting will be able to be a candidate to be the town administrator. You won't have to worry about that for a while, though, right?
The next, removal of suspension, we've changed it from a majority vote to affirmative vote by at least 4 members. We feel that, that's a strong message that if you get to 4, that's got to be good reason. Article 5, organization. Let me see if there's anything. There's a section in the current charter called merit principle. Section 5.3, we've taken that out, and we're recommending that be covered and placed in the bylaws with policies. Let's see, it's posted, where is it posted? Let me just see, Article 7. As you can see, there's not much So, Article 8 is really the transitional section. We did include a new section, Section 712, Charter Enforcement. We wanted to include a recommendation or a mechanism to assure that the charter is enforced if that ever arises. And it says briefly, it shall be the duty of the town administrator to see that the provision of this charter are faithfully followed and complied with departments, boards, town office employees below. Whenever it appears that the town administrator, that any town or employee is failing to follow any provision of this charter, the town administrator shall in writing cause notice to be given to such town agency or town employee directing compliance with the charter. If it shall appear to the Board of Selectmen that the town administrator personally is not following the provisions of this charter, it shall, by resolution, direct the attention of the town administrator to those areas in which they believe there is a failure to comply with the charter provisions. 50 or more registered voters shall have the right to petition the town administrator for enforcement of the charter. Said petition shall be filed with the town clerk and shall state the provision or provisions of this charter demanding to be enforced. The town clerk shall thereupon deliver to the town administrator a copy of said petition within 1 business day of receipt of or for such action as the town administrator shall deem appropriate. Nothing in this section shall be deemed to waive any rights otherwise available in law or in equity. The earlier sections are just the standard continuation. 8.5 is the just minor changes throughout. As far as the there will be some changes. The first part, the time taking effect. We wanted to allow the incumbents to finish their term to expiration, and that gets their buy-in, and after that, they'll become appointed. We did change the verbiage to make it absolutely certain that they are in elected status till their elected position ends, term is complete. And I think that's pretty much, I'm not up to an hour yet, but any questions?
Any questions?
Interesting.
I know you've all read it over several times, I'm sure. But I want to thank the committee. They put a lot of time into it. I joined halfway through and got to see, got the easy part of it done. But they spent a lot of Wednesday evenings working together, and Earl and actually Courtney spent a lot of time typing this up to try to make it as thorough but easy to understand as possible. So appreciate that.
Yeah, our goal is to get the 2/3 majority, get on the ballot, get this in place. Thank you.
Yeah. And to that point, it's the town meeting vote will not be to necessarily approve it. It's to put it on the ballot, and then at the ballot, it needs a majority vote at the ballot, right? Just 50%. Yeah.
Then, before we move on, did you want to take a motion to dissolve your meeting?
Not the committee, just
No,
tonight's meeting.
dissolve your meeting, adjourn your meeting. Yeah. No, not dissolve the committee, adjourn your meeting that was called this evening.
All right.
Right. Right, Moving on.
So actually,
Yes.
sorry, Mr. Chair, the
problem.
Ms. Lori Backus has arrived, and if we want to take that up right now, so we shouldn't have to sit around
Absolutely.
too much longer. Lori, would you like to come up and we ask Laura? Sorry. Yeah. So they might. You can have a seat. Just they may want to ask you a question about your background.
Apologize for being late. I didn't know the time change.
Not a problem. So we did receive an email from you looking for interest to join the finance committee. So if you want to just give us a little bit of your background, and then we can take a vote.
So I have been in the finance industry for 20 years, working in finance, IT. So I'm supporting all of the people that are doing everything you can possibly imagine. And so I just bring a wide range of experience from that. And I have an MBA. I bring the business side. Definitely hearing a lot from my friends and neighbors of the need for fresh blood. And so I was coerced, just kidding, to bring my skills and fresh set of eyes to help the town.
And it says you've been a resident here for 17 years?
Yes.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? If not, yes, absolutely. Okay. To match up with the charter, based upon, so did you want to have that?
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, gently pull the board.
Selectman Dubkevich?
Yes.
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Jolder?
Yes. Right, thank you.
You've got a whole year to change your mind.
Looking forward to working with you all.
So you'll just want to make sure that you stop in and see the town clerk tomorrow so that you can get sworn in as a member of the finance committee.
Okay.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on, we have under consent items, approval of the Board of Selectmen's open session meeting minutes from June 19th, 2017.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, Jen, will you pull the board?
Selectman Dubkevich?
Yes.
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Jolder?
Yes. Now the town administrators report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A few announcements and thanks. We had Lieutenant Governor and Congressman McGovern come out about a week ago with the Head Start announcement of their both state and federal funding, so we're excited that that project's moving forward. We also had this past weekend the Civil War reenactment at Memorial Beach, and they dedicated a small memorial for those who served in the Civil War from the area. We will be having a street fair on September 30th. That's a Saturday from noon to 5 p.m. We'll be closing off Church Street right here, so they'll be using the parking lot here, Church Street, and down Main Street. They'll have sidewalk sales for people to join and to purchase stuff. We'll also be having the downtown trick or treat on Friday, October 27th. I forgot, I think that was like 3. We have a long time before then. We'll get the time out. But, and then last week we had the Blessed Backpack Brigade come and give a presentation to us. We have volunteered to serve on September 27th at 4:30 p.m. So any of the selectmen that are available to join us, we'd love to have you. Jen and Courtney and I will be heading over there. Just going over some of the items under public health and safety. This past week, as you're aware, there's a discipline hearing. We're going to get the report from the hearing officer on September 29th. We are also still looking for volunteers to be on our open space and recreation committee. We have about 3. I think we have space available for 5. Under the finances, the FY16 audit, we have completed the analysis that we were waiting for. The auditor finished that last week. He's going to be putting it into a report, and he'll be here on our next meeting on October 2nd to give us the findings. We're going to talk about health insurance a little later tonight, as well as the financial policies, so we'll talk about that now. Under economic development, we had the benches and trash barrels and planters put out since we last met. I think people seem to be enjoying those a lot. Now that the flowers are blooming, they even look better. We put out a survey for the banners. I was going to go through and show you which ones had won, but we'll do that later, so unless you're dying to find out. Guess not.
Dying to find out.
Really? No. Okay. We also met, Carol Sear and I met with NOAA, the group that did the Satowski Schools apartments. They are interested in doing another project here, so we're going to look at different options and vacant buildings that might have potential for them to do that. So that's an exciting thing that has potential to bring life and upgrade buildings in the downtown area. And the CMA weekly status reports attached. For infrastructure, we had the water pre-bid walkthrough last week. So that's on schedule to be bid out, or to have bids received at the end of September. The library is still moving forward. We're relocating the residents at the parcels we recently purchased. We had a walkthrough with the friends of the library last week. And actually they're discussing with the planning board tonight the expanded parking area. So from the engineer's report, it doesn't seem like that there will be any issues, and that should go fairly well. We will begin hydrant flushing again on the week starting September 18th. So we may have a few dirty water calls in that period. We had this past week the Webster Manor did their fire test, and we had a little bit of dirty water, but not as bad as it was in the spring when half the town had dirty water. So that's a good sign. And we'll be doing the ice pigging starting end of October. That'll take a few weeks, first part of November. We were going to have the Board of Health come here tonight, except for they had a hearing that they had already scheduled. So we'll bring them up to the next meeting and discuss their items. We're working on developing a private roads policy. Jen's actually heading that up and working with Kenny to develop that. We reviewed our WRTA routes. We wanted to make sure that they were effective for our town residents. And for the most part, they look pretty good. We're going to try to be in touch to see if they can, it's possible to do like a dial-a-ride program, and we'll see where that goes for us. And just a reminder that next week is the revised charter public hearing here. I believe it's 7 p.m. Is it next week? Oh, yeah. The sheriff's office, again, has been cleaning. This past week, they've done the beach, Memorial Beach, and they were cleaning around the interchange overpass. So they've been doing a great job. We appreciate their hard work. The sheriff's office will actually be coming here tomorrow to start painting some of the basement hallways. So that'll be nice. And we are continuing to work on nuisance properties. Before we discussed a potential bylaw. Right now, we think it might be more effective just to, we already have all the ability to do everything that we want to do within the bylaw. So we're just going to try out a process to make sure that those are getting tracked and make sure they're followed up on. If we need to adjust and actually adopt a bylaw, we can do that in the future. Also, High Street, Zero High Street, which we'll also talk about later tonight. That area was cleaned up recently, so that's good, and we'll discuss potential uses for that area later. And just for transparent government, we put out the banner survey, try to get feedback from town residents. So try to keep it short tonight. Knew it was going to be a long meeting. Is there any questions or comments?
Motion to accept.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? If not, Jen, will you poll the board?
Selectman Dolgevich?
Yes.
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes. Right, moving on to new business. We have a request to consider expansion of a Class 2 license for Hill Street Auto Sales for 30 Hill Street under the name of Leslie Marochka to increase allowing a maximum of 50 cars to allowing a maximum of 30 cars.
Yeah, so the building commissioner's gone out there, looked at the plans. He recommends approving the increase from 15 to 30. He recently improved the facade of the building, repaved. It looks pretty good out there. I think it would be an appropriate use to increase it to 30. And it fits within the site, and I recommend approval.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? Not, Jen, will you poll the board?
Selectman Dolgevich?
Yes.
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes. Next, we have a vote to adopt Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 32B, Sections 21, 23, for the purposes of providing health insurance coverage to the town of Webster employee subscribers by transferring their coverage to the Group Insurance Commission.
Thank you. So I have a few slides to go over to try to make sense of this, because I know this is new for a lot of people here. First of all, I want to go over what the GIC is, also what is sections 21 through 23, and how that'll affect town employees and collective bargaining units. And then we'll discuss some of the pros and cons about different options we have available to us, and then I'll be able to answer any questions that you or anyone in attendance might have. So the first thing I would just want to cover is a lot of people get confused at the difference between premiums, co-pays, and deductibles. So just so we're all clear, the premium is what basically comes out of employees' checks every month or every week to cover the cost of the plan. The deductibles, that's what you have to pay before the health insurance starts kicking in, and the co-pays are what you pay when you go to the doctor and you have to pay, $15, $20, $25 when you first go. Also, there's different plan types. There's the HMOs, which are a health maintenance organization. They have a network that's narrow, that provides fewer doctors, but at a cheaper cost, and you have to go to your primary care provider before you go to see any referrals. Then they have PPOs, which are a broader network. If you go out of the network, there is still some coverage, unlike the HMO, which there isn't any. And then there's indemnity plans, which basically you can go anywhere you want and they'll cover you. So what we're going to discuss tonight is sections 21 through 23. This, if the board adopts this, it allows me to negotiate with all the collective bargaining units simultaneously, all together, so we can discuss whether we want to do potential plan design changes or join the Group Insurance Commission, which is the state's insurance for all of the state employees, and municipalities are allowed to join it as well. So I'm looking at the different options. One is, of course, joining the GIC. Another is joining a consortium where a whole bunch of communities go together and buy insurance, and they group together to try to save money. One of those is the Hampshire Council on Governments. They have plans very similar to ours. We looked at those. Unfortunately, the savings are not as much as we had hoped. And the other option is to look at Blue Cross and Blue Shield and see if there's potential changes we could do to our existing plans to make savings for employees and for the town. Right now, it looks like the GIC offers the most savings with to both town employees and the town itself. However, right now the GIC is undergoing a procurement to go out and purchase new health plans. So right now, it's actually very difficult to determine what the actual savings might be. So they're going to have their new plans available and ready for the new year come March. So what I actually am going to recommend tonight is that the board adopts sections 21 through 23. That gives me the chance to meet with all the unions and explain the different options available. And then come March, we'll be able to look at what the GIC offers and compare it exactly to what our plans are today. And then we'll be able to determine what's the best interest for the employees and for the town going forward. When I was looking at it, the potential savings range from $350,000 to $700,000 for the town. The employees would save a very similar amount. It all depends on where people migrate to, because if people go to all the expensive plans, obviously our savings is going to be less, as well as their savings. Just real quick, the GIC, like I said, is the insurance company for all the state employees. That includes like the state police, every state employee that works downtown in Boston. It's 436,000 lives. So what we get by joining the GIC is we get a very, very large pool. So the risk is spread out over a lot of people. They're able to negotiate better rates than the town of Webster can on its own. So that it gives us a lot of purchasing power that we wouldn't have otherwise. This is just a map of some of the communities that have decided to join into the Group Insurance Commission. There's about 50 of them between communities and regional school districts. This just shows what some of the price differences are. So previously in my other community I worked for, I was on the Fallon Direct HMO, so I was paying $1,300 a month. Here, the cheapest family plan available for me is $1,800 a month. I was perfectly satisfied with $1,300 a month, so employees have the ability to choose a plan that meets their needs and saves them money. Employees also have the ability to choose a more expensive plan, and even the GIC's most expensive plans are pretty much the same price as our current plans. So I think there's the ability to tailor it to each individual's needs, and people can purchase more care if they want more care, but still not have to pay more than they're currently paying. So some of the reasons to join, again, it's high quality of care. There's good health plans available on the GIC. They have Harvard Pilgrim, they have Tufts, they have Fallon. The premiums are lower. Some of the other benefits is our gym or health reimbursements. Our plans offer that now, but some of the GIC plans offer a more generous package to that. There are some challenges. Right now, everyone's on Blue Cross or Blue Shield. Blue Cross Blue Shield's not available on the GIC, at least not now. They potentially will be putting in a bid, and they might be available come next March when we're looking at it for a July 1st implementation date. So if we're really lucky, that's what will happen, and everyone will be able to keep Blue Cross Blue Shield, and we'll all be able to save money. So let's keep our fingers crossed that happens. If that doesn't happen, and we still are looking seriously at the GIC, it's guaranteed that one of their plans is going to accept the doctors. They have plans that accept every single doctor in Massachusetts, and another plan that accepts every single doctor in New England. So that's really not a concern. They do have higher deductibles and specialist co-pays. Those are a cost to employees, but the premium savings will be more than enough to offset that, as well as when we join the GIC, we're forced to save 25% of the savings and develop some mitigation plan for employees so those costs will be offset to them a little bit. One of the other challenges is when you join for 3 years, and you lose the ability to change anything in those 3 years. So if the state wanted to make significant changes, there's not much we can do about it. However, there's a lot of people backing the employees. There's statewide unions that will be fighting anything that the GIC may want to implement. And the biggest problem right now is that there's few out-of-state options. However, we do know that those are going to change by the next spring. So that will actually not be that much of a problem anymore. This is just to show that there's plans available that have some of the popular hospitals. If you want to be able to go to pretty much any hospital, there's a plan for you. If you don't care and you don't mind going to St. Bede's rather than UMass Memorial, there's a plan for you there as well. Again, you'll be able to find a doctor as well. These are the plans that are available in the different areas. What I did was I put together a cost calculator where you can go in, plug in how many times you go to the doctor. It spits out how much you're currently spending on your plans and how much the plans on the GIC would be to you. I think if people were able to do this, go in, see the potential savings, I think it would be easy for them to understand that there's potential savings for both them and for the town. And again, there's the mitigation plan where 25% of the savings gets to go back to employees that are most affected by this. So right now, that looks like people who live out of state. That's probably going to change. But then if there's other people that go to the doctor more than others, we can come up with some program so they're not adversely affected. Again, I mentioned there's different alternatives. It's not the GIC or nothing. We have, when you adopt section 21 through 23, section 22 is specific to making plan designs with your current plans, and section 23 is if you wanted to go to the GIC directly. So we're open to discussing it with all the collective bargaining units and trying to figure out the best option for everyone. And yeah, the next steps, if you vote to adopt this, I'll meet with the collective bargaining units. We'll agree on a schedule to make to look at the different options available to us. And then this is assuming a July 1st enrollment. That probably won't happen, but it's a process that is involved and lets everyone have the opportunity to discuss the issues available. So that's all I have on this. Does the board have any specific questions?
Any questions from the board members?
As long as the insurance is comparable.
Yeah, I mean, there's,
Data.
right.
You know, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can get plans that don't cover as much, but you can get plans that cover just as much and for a similar price.
So do we have a motion from the board to adopt the Mass General Law, Chapter 32B, Sections 21 through 23
So moved,
provisions?
Mr. Chairman.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, Jen, will you poll the board?
Selectman Dovgivy?
Yes.
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes. Moving on, the next item on the agenda is review and vote on a change of manager application on the alcohol beverages license, club license, all alcohol, from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission for the Webster Dudley Post 184 American Legion. They're looking to change the name of the manager to Mark Allen Landry.
Yeah, we reviewed this. We don't find any issues with it, so we recommend.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? If not, Jen, will you poll the board?
Selectman Dovgivy?
Yes.
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes. Moving on, we have a requesting to amend a Class 2 license for car and truck wholesalers at 181 Thompson Road, Webster, Mass., under the name of Francis E. Mello, to place an additional name on the license for his son, Francis Mello, Jr.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, Jen, will you poll the board?
Selectman Dovgivy?
Yes.
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes. Next item on the agenda is review and consider an application for a change of owner on the common particular licenses for Honeydew Donuts, number 3827, and Honey Farms, number 3827, located at 188 Gore Road, Webster, Mass., from Wilford Iandoli to Global Montello Group Corporation.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Jen, will you poll the board?
Selectman Dovgivy?
Yes.
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes. We have our review of the town of Webster financial policies.
Mr. Chairman, before we go on to the
Yes.
financial portion of this, if we can just circle back to just one thing I noticed on the vote that we took under new business.
Yes.
On our agenda, we took the vote for 30 Hill Street.
Oh, yes.
On the application for the public hearing, it says 31 Hill Street.
Okay.
So do we need to amend that motion so that it reads 31 or 30? On our agenda, it says 30, and on this, for the public hearing, and on the back of this, it says 31.
31. Yeah, we'll take, did you want to amend your original motion?
So I would
So,
amend,
yeah, the actual address.
is 31,
Is
correct?
it?
It says 31 on this,
On
on this, and on this, it says 30.
Okay.
So if that's the case, I'll amend my motion to read 30 Hill Street.
Second,
To read
31.
31.
Yeah,
31
from
or
30 to 31.
So moved. Second, sorry.
Yeah. Google says it's 31. So.
Well, this says 31, so.
Yeah, so.
So we are amending it to 31. And then Jen, did you want to repoll the board?
Selectman Dokivich?
Yes.
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes, thank you. Oh, right, and moving on, we have review and consider revisions to the town of Webster financial policies.
Yeah, so, I was gonna recommend that, I can go over these briefly tonight, but then we can give the board a chance to review those in detail, and then we can, approve them next meeting if that's the wish of the board.
We should have got these on our tablet.
Yeah, right, so. We took a lot of this from, the State Department of Revenue has, draft financial policies that they make available to different communities, to all different communities. Most of these are generic ones that, they recommend. A lot of it is, basic practice that, we want to continue doing, that is already consistent with what we're doing. We just want to formalize it and put it into a policy. A lot of these policies are specific to match what the state law is. There's a few things that we want to specify that are not required of every community. For instance, there's how much money you want to have set aside in the stabilization fund. Some communities want 10%. Some people only want 5%. The recommendation from DOR is somewhere between 5 and 8. So I think we put in there between 5 and 8%. So we can go over those in more detail, but in general, that's the different policies that we were looking at. Again, some of these policies were actual policies we had already in place that we just incorporated in it, so they're all in one place and we have all the financial policies together. So without getting into too much detail, is there anything you want to just ask now, or do you want to have a chance to read through it and then discuss it?
I would think we needed some time to
To
look
read
at
it.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's
And,
60 pages, so.
and maybe you
Gave
could
us
just send
tablets
us
and know how to use
an
it. rather than-
executive summary of what he's looking.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to send out an executive
Of the
summary
different.
of the changes.
Yeah, so a lot of them, they're not really changes, they're just formalizing the policy. We never really have one
If you just
exactly,
send- if you
but
send
we
that to
can,
us, that would be helpful.
yeah. So I'll put together like a one-page memo on it to save you from reading 68 pages. So, but if you have any questions while you review it, before next meeting, let me know.
Moving on, we have the review of the town of Webster rental contract with guidelines and fees for Memorial Beach. The Memorial Beach bathroom facilities, French River Park, Senior Center, and Town Hall Conference Room.
Right, so we get a lot of requests to use different town facilities, mostly the town beach. So Pam had started this and Courtney kind of finished it up. It's a draft rental contract for different agencies that they could use if they want to come use either the beach or the French River Park. So we basically, we're gonna require them to provide proof of insurance. There's a small fee if there's different groups set up. So if you're a group A and you're town department related, we're not gonna charge you. If you're a 501c3, we can waive the fee. If you're just a group that is gonna make money, we're gonna charge you money for it. So those are all spelled out in here, groups A through D. The schedule of fees is on page 6. So we have, if you're gonna be using the Memorial Beach during the off-season, or we'll go with the on-season. For example, if you're gonna have a carnival come here, we charge them the $600 a day for 5 hours, or $1,500 for the full day, plus the appropriate detail for the Parks Department employee to be available on site and take care of things. We try to make it reasonable, but also be able to cover our town costs. So we think this will be a good thing for us, and it'll help us make sure that we're getting appropriate coverage for our facilities, and we recommend approval. Do you have any questions or comments on this?
Do you have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? If not, Jen, will you pull the board?
Selectman Dalgety?
Yes.
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes. Next item on the agenda is presentation by the town administrator of the compiled results of the town of Webster's Citizens Survey.
Thank you. Let me pull this up. So, as you know, we put out a survey. It was through June and July that was made available to town to town residents. These are the results. I actually was very pleasantly surprised. You hear people complain all the time, but when you actually do the survey, for the most part, people are very happy. So I'll go over this. On the chart, 1s are bad, 5s are good. So just remember that when you're looking at it. The overall opinion of the town is a solid average. So we have different categories as a place to stay, as a place to run a business. For the most part, everyone thinks that we're in the average category. What I liked was the overall value received for your town taxes and fees is actually tilted towards the high side. More people thought that they got a good value for their fees and taxes than did not. So that's good news, and we want to continue to improve that. I think will be very interesting is to do this survey again next year and see how things have changed and how people's opinions in the town have changed, improved, or gone down. So this is overall importance of town services, so not how well they're doing, but how important they are. This is kind of obvious that the police and fire are most important. If you look on the next slide, town water and wastewater services are also very important. It's kind of obvious. Some of the more recreational, like the library or arts council, things like that, didn't score as high on these areas, which is to be understood. This is how people feel how we're doing communicating with town residents. So the overall effectiveness of town communication with the public was scored off the charts. I'm not really sure why it was so good, but apparently people think that the overall effectiveness is there. When they have overall availability of information on the website, just average the town's efforts to keep people involved and informed, about average. The level of public involvement into town decision-making was kind of on the low side. Maybe they don't know they can come to town meeting and vote whatever they want, but we can make that more well-known. And the quality of the town's cable TV wanted some improvement, but don't tell Greg that. He works very hard. Again, about average on the user-friendliness of the town website, transparency of the government was a little low. and availability to town leaders is about average, so people feel like they can contact you, which I think is a good thing. The town website seems to be the most popular source of information, followed by the newspaper. It's not a big surprise there, and social media is third. I was glad that Code Red was on there, because I think that's a great tool that we can pinpoint exactly who we need to go to, and I'm glad that people seem to enjoy it and feel like it's working. So to review public safety services, town efforts to prevent crime, most people voted in the 3 to 4 range. How quickly police respond to emergencies scored very well. They're very responsive. Frequency of the patrols in the neighborhood is about average. 3 was the highest ranking there as well. The enforcement of traffic laws, the second bar was very high, so apparently the level of traffic enforcement is appropriate for the community. Town's efforts to address substance abuse is definitely an area that the residents want us to focus on. We have started the opioid task force, which is actually very effective at targeting people who have issues and getting them help. So we'll continue to do that, and we'll look at other options to make that more effective. The fire department scored very high all across the board, as well as animal control. This is perceptions of safety, how safe people feel in their neighborhood and in the day or the night. So during the day, everyone feels very safe. In their neighborhoods at night, I was surprised it's almost as high. The commercial areas is where people feel less safe, but overall, people feel safe in Webster. Again, this is obviously the most important public services, the police and fire. So. Parks and Rec, again, a lot of these are average. The one surprise here was the cost to Memorial Beach. People think we charge too much to get into Memorial Beach. And this is, we didn't necessarily exclude non-residents from taking the survey, but I would have assumed that most of them are residents and not the out-of-town people that were taking the survey. So personally, I feel like the fees are in line with other communities. Maybe that non-residents are a little expensive, but I was surprised by that. And activities offered at Memorial Beach is again something that they wanted us to focus on and to put more time and effort into. So road and transportation. The biggest concern here was safety of sidewalks after snow events. So that's the owner's responsibility. So maybe we can do a better job of making that known, perhaps enforcing it, and either ticketing or giving warnings out for people who aren't taking care of the ice and snow on sidewalks. Seem to be satisfied with how quickly street repairs were made. The availability of public transportation was one that scored on the low side, and that kind of prompted us to look into the WRTA and what they have available to us. And again, we were actually pleasantly surprised at how well the town was covered and how much public transportation was available. These are pretty standard. I don't know if you can read all these, but it's public parking downtown. Sometimes that flares up and becomes a huge issue, but overall, I think people are fairly satisfied with that. Street signs and signals, people are happy with. Adequacy of street lights is good, and people don't feel it's too dark. And maintenance of sidewalks and neighborhoods is one of the other areas that we should focus resources on. The appearance of downtown, I think the last two, the enforcement of litter and debris on private property and cutting weeds on private property, is something that people want focused on here in town. This pretty much average. This deals a lot with the regulation of signs and parking. what people would want improved in their neighborhood is cleaning private properties, address drugs and homelessness, and more of a police presence for the top three. Land development, this questions on, are you satisfied with how the town's being developed? It seems yes, they are. Everyone voted 3 on these. And surprisingly, the retail development scored very high, so I think people feel that there's enough retail available in town. Again, open space and historic preservation scored well on here as well. So things that they want us to focus on is the appearance of downtown and maintaining private property and enforcing the zoning. These questions all have to do with satisfaction with town employees and how they were treated when they came to town. I was very pleasantly, not surprised, but I was very, very happy to see this, that people, when they come to town, they feel like they're getting good service and they're enjoying their experience here. There were very few people that had bad comments with how their issues were handled or resolved. That first one with all the bad on it is clarity of water. So we like to tease Doran that he scored the worst on the survey. But again, we have the plan in place to develop the wastewater treatment, the water treatment plant to filter that water. Arts and culture, again, everyone seems satisfied enough with the availability of town events and the library in general. Again, these are library programs and materials available at the library. So this is interesting. What do people like most about living here? The lake, good neighborhood feel, the town. It's affordable, and we have a school system that meets their needs and easy access to travel. It's kind of funny, the next slide is what you don't like living on Webster, and it's some of the same things. But the neighborhood uncleanliness, crime and drugs, some of the things that we're aware of that we're working on to fix. So that's the end of the slideshow. We have all the data. We'll make it available. We'll put it online. We'll put this presentation online that summarizes it. We're working on plans to try to address some of these issues that, some of the areas they asked us to focus on were the beach, and we're trying our best to make that a better experience for town residents. Does the board have any comments, thoughts?
I have a question. How many people took the survey?
I looked it up and I'm trying to remember. It was like 350 in that range. But you don't recall it differently, do you?
No, not everybody answered every question either.
But on an average, it was 350.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Moving on, we have discussing of the rehabilitation project at the Armory, 31 Ray Street.
Yeah, so as you know, Chris Robert is moving forward with the renovation of the Armory. He needs to put sprinklers into the building, and he has an estimated cost of about $35,000. He approached me and asked if the town would be able to extend the water main in the road to the site. I told him I'd bring it to the board to see if there was appetite to help support that. When we originally talked about this back in January, it was kind of, we'll give you the building, we'll let you have a long-term lease. But there wasn't really any discussion of the town participating financially in the efforts. So wanted to open it up to the board, see if you have any strong feelings about whether we should try to find money to.
Can we do that ourselves with DPW and water sewer?
The staff can do it. However, there's costs that will be given, the town will have to cover for materials and things like that someone needs to pick up. Just as far as man hours, yeah, that could be done. Doran gave me an estimate. The materials was what, probably 8,000-ish? Yeah, and then labor on top of that, so,
So, for, say, $10,000,
yeah.
we can get this building fixed up, and we got a guy who's donating pretty much 99.9 of the money to get this going, right? I would think that that's a small price to pay to get this
Yeah, yeah, and
finished,
that's,
you know?
yeah, that's why I wanted to bring it up to the board, because we didn't specifically discuss funding it financially, but no, if that's what the board wants, that's fine.
This thing is sat empty for how long?
Oh, Jesus, he is.
Well, we took ownership of it, what, 04 or something?
He's, you know, the guy is taking the ball, he's running with it, so I'll make a motion to supply the water and sewer line,
Just the water main.
water main
Second.
to the armory.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, Jen, will you poll the board?
Selectman Lopkowski?
Yes.
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes. All right. Next item on the agenda is acceptance of proposed donation of land at 0 High Street, Webster, Mass., and its potential use including development of a dog park and a dog park building committee.
Right, so if you look here on the map, the owners of 0 High Street, which is, these parcels along here. So it's 1.13 acres made up of these 4 parcels right here, 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 and here. This is High Street, this is Grove Street, so the old senior center's right here across the street from it.
Is that the area where we had some issues a few weeks ago?
With the,
Homeless?
yes, that is the same area. So we sent out an enforcement letter to the property owners. They have gone and cleaned it up. Right now, it looks pretty good. And when we sent that, they wrote back, said, we'll clean it up now. Is there any way you would want it? So we discussed it with staff. The suggestion was made of potentially turning it into a dog park. I think if nothing's done with the area, it's just going to keep turning back to people camping out down there. So at least this would be an option to address that, potentially bring another amenity to downtown and get people to be in the area more.
Be suitable for parking?
So there is this is our parking lot right here. The town owns this. Right here is kind of flat. Other than that, it gets pretty steep, both from High Street down to the road, and then from south going down to the main street, it's pretty steep that way as well. So for the cost to put it in, I think it would probably not be worth it to put in parking, except for maybe a few spots down here at the end.
So how are they gonna walk their dogs up the hill?
No, the dogs would be able to run free is the idea. That we fence it off, put in, they have tunnels or bridges or whatever the dogs can run around and make it available for that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, go right ahead.
how many parcels do you have there? 4? Or
It's
2?
4, yeah.
4. Can you divide that up? Because I might know somebody that would even want to purchase some of that property.
Yeah, no, if we accepted it as a donation, which has to be accepted by town meeting.
Right.
But you'd have to put it on the warrant.
And for the record, I'm not against a dog park either. So.
Right, and it's an acre, there's potential to do several things with that area. So we could make part of it a dog park. If we wanted to subdivide it and sell part of it off, that's an option as well.
Okay.
So I guess the first question is, do we want to entertain this offer to donate the property to the town? There are some risks because it's likely that it'll be used as a camping area for homeless people.
Right,
Well-
at least right now, we can police it ourselves.
Yeah,
Well, the residents of which that are living there still live there.
yeah,
6 o'clock in the morning when I'm in my office, they're walking out from there.
yeah.
From
Yeah.
the woods.
Yeah, they
In the woods, yeah.
they cleaned a lot of the stuff up, but yeah, there is people sleeping in there still.
It should, Mr. Chairman, through the chair, it should be clear cut, quite frankly, for most of it. You
Yeah,
know
if we took ownership of it, that's what we would do, for sure.
Because, my opinion is that that's been a long-standing tax title deal from years and years and years ago, the estates. And then it sat there, then all of a sudden they were gonna put condos up there, that fell through. And then it was gonna be something else, and you had another group buy it. Now, that's all well and good, and if you don't wanna clear cut it, so what are you gonna do with it? Well, let's give it to the town, so it takes it off the tax rolls. Again, I'm not opposed to it, I think it could be subdivided somewhere into a dog park or whatever. But I think if you have other interested or butters that would wanna expand their parking areas or whatever they have, whatever would conform to that,
Yeah,
would be a win-win for everybody, I would assume.
Yeah.
Right, that's a terrible word to use, but I would hope that that would happen.
yeah, so the two options are, we take ownership of it and we look at the different options, including additional parking, subdividing, or turning it into a park. We can do anything we want with it. If we leave it in the ownership it's currently under, we just have to keep on top of them to make sure that they are cleaning up and it doesn't become a nuisance.
And through the chair, I think that we have to be very cognizant of the fact that we would be relocating many people,
Yeah.
and
How
where
many
do they
people?
go from there?
I don't know.
Community?
Yeah, it,
Oh,
there's several. And if we do that, we don't wanna just, go through, clear and cut it and, not have them have any other options.
Right.
So we wanna make sure that the resources are made known to them and they have every opportunity to take advantage of what is available to them. So,
I certainly would entertain it.
I'll second it.
So we have a motion and a second, any other discussion?
So perhaps rather than calling it a dog park building committee, we could just call some sort of committee to,
Determine the
Land use committee.
yeah, for Zero High Street,
Yeah, find the
Sounds
best,
good.
yeah.
find what the best and most cost-effective use of the property.
Yep.
All right, so we have a motion and a second, any other discussion? If not, Jen, will you pull the board?
Selectman Dolgetti?
Yes.
Selectman Book?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Jolder?
Yes. Next item on the agenda is to review and vote to accept the town meeting warrant for the annual town meeting on Monday, October 16th at 7 PM at Bartlett High School auditorium.
So, the warrant was included in your packet. We got this finalized version from our attorneys today. No substantive changes, but a few grammatical or legalese things. So I'll go through it. Article 1, just to hear reports. Articles 2, 3, and 4 are to do prior year unpaid bills for the general fund, sewer, and water funds. Article 5 is to make changes within the FY18 budget. One thing I do have on there sorry, on my version, I had a recreation director listed on there. I know that the past October, that was put in there at the October town meeting. I don't know if we'll be able to actually fund that. We're still analyzing some of our costs, but if possible, I'd like to put that in there. So if we do move to approve this, I would add that on there as recreation director, so another budget item. Article 6 is to fund our health insurance accounts. Next week, or next meeting, when we have the auditor here, he'll explain that there's a few accounts that we need to add additional money to, so that can be taken care of with Article 6. Articles 7, 8, and 9 are to put money back into the stabilization fund that was taken out in the past couple of years. The $45,000 was to buy the hovercraft, the $250,000 was to pay for the police salaries, and the $150,000 was for the fire station roof. So those were all recently taken out that we want to put back into stabilization. Right now, our stabilization fund's about $700,000, so this will bring it up by 450, so a little over 1.1 million. if we want to get to like a 5%, that's about almost $3 million that we want to put in, so we still have room to fund that in future years. So Article 10 is to specify certain revenue sources and put them in certain accounts. So Article 10 is to adopt that section of the law. Article 11 is to take the money from the solar landfill, or the solar field on our old landfill, and put that into the Town Hall Improvement Stabilization Fund. It's about $50,000 that would go into it every year. Article 12 is to fund the conversion of our streetlights to LEDs. We'd borrow $330,000, most likely for a term of 5 years. The return on investment was under 2 years for this, so it makes financial sense for us to do that. Article 13 is to adopt the Stretch Energy Code. This is for Webster to become a green community. Once we're designated as a green community, we'll receive a grant of over $100,000 that we can use to make us more energy efficient. And then we're eligible to apply for additional funding on top of that. So they have 5 different criteria. We're working on completing the first 4, but the last one is that the town has to adopt the Stretch Energy Code, which right now, the Stretch Energy Code hasn't changed in a while, and the regular building code has changed, so they're very, very similar, and it's not much of a difference. Talking with Ted, the building commissioner, he said, really, there's no difference. The one change he knew about, he said, in order to do it, you'd have to meet the Stretch Energy Code anyway, so he feels like it's not a burden on local contractors in the area. We will be having the Green Community representative come to our next meeting on October 2nd to explain this more in detail. Article 14 is this is the electricity aggregation program. We've talked about this a few weeks ago, that we could take the entire electrical load of the residents in Webster and we can bid that out, and residents could get a lower rate if they want to stay in the program. They're free to opt out, but if they want to stay in, for the other communities that have done it around us, it's been a 10% savings for them. Article 15 is we have applied to the state for their transportation improvement program to make Lake Parkway, Claymore Ave, to put sidewalks and the streetscape in along there. So we would have, this would allow us to take the easements to make that possible. The road's very, very wide, so the easements that we'd be taking are mostly just construction easements. There's a few easements that, we need to take a foot of someone's front lawn. But for the most part, all the work is within the current right-of-way. Article 16, that is to accept the donation of the 4 parcels of 0 High Street we just talked about. Article 17 is to fund a snow plow. Article 18 is to allow the town to enter into a 10-year contract for for sludge disposal from the wastewater treatment plant. So normally, it's in the town's best interest to have shorter contracts because we're able to go out to bid, and the competition drives prices down for us. This is a case where the actual opposite is true. There's so few people who do it, and the number of facilities that actually take sludge is decreasing, so we want to be able to lock in for a longer term, so we have guaranteed rates for at least 10 years. Article 19 is to fund the sewer pump stations and putting them into a SCADA system. This has been talked about for a while now. This is part of the wastewater treatment plant capital improvement program that Ty & Bond has been working on for us. So Article 20 is to fund a replacement for engine 5 and ladder 2. So I printed out our replacement schedule for fire vehicles over the next 5 years. So this one would replace the 1995 engine number 5. And what the chief wants to do is on this engine to put a larger tank on it so it can double as both the tanker and engine 5. So if you see on here up above, we have the Mac 600 tanker, which was built in 1988, almost 30 years, oh, sorry, over 30 years old. Almost 30 years old, sorry. So that was scheduled to be replaced in 2020. So rather than replacing that in 2020 and engine 5 in this fiscal year, he's going to combine it and just buy one vehicle and save us $500,000. Also look, in 2021 is another vehicle purchase. It's the emergency 1 fire truck that would be scheduled to be replaced. And then the next 2 large purchases are the pumpers that we had 2 that were purchased in 2005. We want to split that up a little bit, so one would be purchased in 2024, the other one would be purchased in 2026. So right now, the NFPA guidelines say that a truck should only be the first responder truck for its first 15 years, and then from 15 to 25, it should be, it can be like a backup vehicle. We're using trucks that are over 25 as our initial responding vehicles. So we should address that and make sure we have the appropriate vehicles for the job. Article 21 is $48,000 to remove underground fuel storage tanks at the fire station. These were brought up when they were doing the project over there, and they were actually supposed to have these removed by July, which didn't happen. So now, if we don't do it, there's potential for some fines, but we hope to avoid those and take care of it soon. Article 22 was submitted by the fire chief. This would adopt certain provisions of the Mass General Law that would put the fire department under the authority of the fire chief rather than a board of fire commissioners. I think this is a good move to streamline things and to have one point of contact. So Article 23 is it sets a minimum value for how much money is used to bill out for a town. So actually, Article 23, it has $10,000 in there. I'm going to recommend that we change that to $4,000, which is what the assessor wanted. That way, that would be for a $4,000 piece of property. The bill is about $50 to $60, depending on what our tax rate is. So what we don't want to do is be sending out tax bills for like $10. And by the time we go through all the manpower to send the bill out, to get the people to try to pay it, to follow up when they don't pay it, it's not worth it for anything below $4,000 worth of value. So that will allow us to not bill it and save all that effort. Article 24 is submitted by the school department to buy a or a utility tractor that can be used as a mower and a snow plow. Article 25 is to fund the admin office buildings for the admin offices in the high school for the school administration. Similar article was denied at the May town meeting, so this is bringing it back to fund it. Article 26 is to address some of the zoning near on Old Worcester Road next to the cemetery, so it would be taking a part of the cemetery and making it industrial, and the plan is that the neighboring industrial owner is going to purchase this property and use it to expand his business. Article 27 is a moratorium on recreational marijuana use. So this is the recommended language from the attorneys and consistent with what the Attorney General's office has approved in the past. So this will allow us 18 months to develop regulations and it gives us a chance to see what regulations the state comes out with before we develop zoning regulations or any other regulations involving recreational marijuana. Article 28 was a citizen's petition. Essentially, they want to restrict the launching of personal watercraft from the town beach. People have been telling me that the use of jet skis on the beach is getting to the point where it's dangerous for not only those people on the jet skis, for other people who are trying to enjoy the lake. So this was an effort to restrict the number of jet skis or personal watercraft that are on the beach or on the lake. Article 29 was also a citizen's petition to accept Dominique Drive or portions of Dominique Drive. This, so we usually have a process to do this, and then the town will sponsor it once everything has been met. They haven't actually completed the whole process with their planning board, so this is a citizen's petition, so we allowed it to be on there, but until they have met the requirements of the planning board, I'm gonna recommend that the town not approve it. I think I'll check back with the engineer and see how far off they are. Perhaps they can adjust things in time for town meeting, but right now, they are not meeting our local requirements for acceptance. In Article 30, this is an article, I got a call from Glenn Krabowski on Friday afternoon, and this was an article that was on last October's town meeting that the Board of Selectmen voted to put on the town meeting warrant. And it was actually passed over last October because some of the information was not on file with the town clerk. So in general, they wanted to swap some parcels that were in the conservation restriction area, take some parcels out and put some parcels in. And I believe at the time the board was fully in support of it. Because of that, we reviewed it. I'm gonna let the board decide if you want to put it on the warrant tonight for this upcoming town meeting. So that's all the articles. Sorry, it's kind of a lot. Is there anything specific that you have questions on?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely.
When you get back to that Article 30, I think that was approved by DEP also. That's why. Is that okay, Earl? Okay, thank you. My wife was before, so. But that was, DEP had approved that, and there was a swap on that. But would that have to tie in with Dominique? On
What's
the
that?
end, on Dominique?
Yeah, and so even if the town, if I understand it correctly, after talking with the town planner, this would still have to be voted on by the state legislature. But I can confirm that, but that's what she told me.
But, the board members, do we want to do what we've done in the past, take out, mark the ones that we want to recommend approval?
And just omit the citizens petition?
Mark those as response,
Right.
So do we have a motion?
Make a motion to accept Articles 1 through
28? No,
20.
27.
27.
We have Article 30.
So Article 30 did not make it in as a citizen's petition. It was previously a Board of Selectmen sponsored article, so you want to amend it to include Article 30.
And include Article 30.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second for the Board of Selectmen to recommend approval of Articles 1 through 28 and 30.
Correct.
So any discussion? If not, Jen, will you pull the board?
Selectman Dubkevich?
Yes.
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes. And now for Articles 28 and 29, do we want to refer to sponsor on those?
Yes, I'll make so much.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to refer Articles 28 and 29 to the sponsor. So if there's any discussion,
Yeah, so real quick, there was a couple of changes that I mentioned that we'll provide a clean copy and we'll get signatures from you. so we can post that.
And Jen, you want to pull the board?
Selectman Dovgevy?
Yes.
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes. Next item on the agenda is the vote to open up the warrant for the special town meeting held on Monday, October 30th at 7 p.m. at the Bartlett High School Auditorium, 2 Lake Parkway, with the warrant to close on Friday, September 15th at 12 noon.
Right, so this would be to hold a special town meeting to discuss the charter. Vote on. Our intention is to make that the only item to be discussed.
Okay.
So moved.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? If not, Jen, will you pull the board?
Selectman Dovgevy?
Yes.
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes. All right, next item on the agenda is the appointment of a selectman to the Central Massachusetts Metropolitan Planning Organization.
Well, Randy's not here.
And so, they're asking for a member of the board to attend one of their meetings, and that meeting of the regional areas, which includes Oxford, Auburn, Charlton, Dudley, Southbridge, Sturbridge. They'll elect one of the selectmen from all those communities to represent this area at the CMRPC, the Central Massachusetts Regional Planning Commission. Mark looks like he's excited about it.
Mark would love to do it, but I really can't. Can you do it as our representative? In fact, maybe you'd get voted on to represent the whole district.
I think
That'd be pretty
it needs to
impressive.
be a selectman, but I can attend the meeting and say, no, no one from the town of Webster wants to be represented. So
Don has experience.
I've done that committee before. It's time for some fresh blood, Mr. Chairman.
Is that Andrew? He's
Yeah.
Well, I
second,
know
and I'll second it.
I'm on the Worcester County Selectmen's Association as well.
Yeah, that's no
so
excuse.
you'll have lots of friends.
Yeah, so we'll know everyone.
All right, I'll accept that appointment.
So moved.
Second.
Third.
We have motion to second. Any other discussion? If not, Jen, will you poll the board?
Selectman Dovgevy?
Yes.
Selectman Bork?
Yes.
Selectman Miller?
Happily, yes.
Chairman Jolda?
Yes. Oh, right. The next item on the agenda will be going into executive session, and we will return into open session. So I'll be taking a vote to go into executive session to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. It will be to review the changes and discuss negotiations for a new memorandum of agreement through June 30th, 2019 with the Service Employees International Union Local 888 Water Department employees. So do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second, and I will poll the board.
Selectman Dov, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Selectman Board,
Yes.
Selectman Miller,
Yes.
Yes.
Devich, and myself, yes.